Good there. All right, welcome everyone. This is Our Travel Experiences. I'm your host, Kyle Rasmussen, and today I have a good friend of mine with me, Preston. Preston, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm good, man. How are you?
Yeah, doing well. Excited to talk about some of your travel experiences today.
Sure,
Drink
yeah.
some wine while we're doing it.
Absolutely. The best way to get me talking is to have a little bit of wine. So that's
There we
perfect.
go. There we go. So I know before we hopped on here, you mentioned to me that you studied abroad in Florence. So I'm really interested to hear about how that was.
Yeah. So my experience was right around graduation. I went to Gonzaga, and one of the programs that Gonzaga offers is specific to traveling in Europe. So it was called Gonzaga in Belgium and Italy.
Hmm.
And we spent basically a month. The program itself was like 3 weeks almost, and the first half was in Belgium, the second half was in Italy, in Brussels, Belgium. And so, it was my first time out of the country and going to Europe, and I was traveling alone. So quite a scary experience at first. I won't lie. I was like, man, I'm not sure what to pack. I'm not sure what to
Uh-huh.
be prepared for. I've got my tickets to fly. I flew out of Seattle, or I flew out of Yakima, but then Seattle to London, and then London to Brussels, and it was a long flight, especially to be alone at 18 years old,
Yeah.
and or not 18 years old, 21 years old I was at the time, but it was just so young, I guess is my point, and I didn't know what to expect. So you have all those feelings. Then we went to Brussels. That was fun. Spent time there in a city that I never thought I would ever spend any time with or even enjoy. Found a few restaurants and pubs that were pretty awesome to experience. In fact, there was a club. Learned something valuable when I was there, that we Americans party too early.
That's for
Um,
sure.
it was like I think it was a Thursday night, and it was our first week there. And when I say it, I have a couple buddies that went with me from Gonzaga as well, and they were part of the program.
Mhm.
And we decided, well, we need to go out and experience some of the nightlife. It's a Thursday night in the United States, Gonzaga at least. Thursday nights were fun, and so we're like, let's go out. So we found a club that would be kind of fun. We show up, and it's like 10:45 or 11 o'clock, and it's empty,
Yeah.
absolutely empty. And we end up going inside and talking to this bartender, and the bartender made us a drink, and they said, you Americans just don't understand. We don't party here until at least 1. I'm
Hmm.
like, 1 o'clock in the morning? I'm asleep by 1
Yeah,
o'clock in the morning.
exactly.
But it's true. They party until daylight, and
Mhm.
it's just a very different experience. So a lot of fun. Learned different things in different cities. Belgium was a very cool city to be in. Obviously there's crime there, but it's nice parts of the town. We stayed at the Wiltshire Steigenberger. I think that's how you pronounce it. And while we were there, it's been a lot of people, like Bill Gates has stayed there, I believe. I know different presidents have stayed there. I want to say
Wow.
Bill Clinton has stayed there. But while we were there, and I'll have to show you a picture sometime.
Yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
I met the president of Gambia.
Okay.
Now, didn't even know Gambia was a country at this point in time, but one of the hotel front desk people said that, yeah, we've got this guest, and we could tell something was going on based on the security, the police
Mhm.
presence outside the building. And then I'll never forget standing at the doorway. There's no such thing as a secret service type of thing with this guy. He just walks in the door with his multiple wives that he had, and it was really cool. And so we, in a way, got to meet or see up close a figurehead of a country in Africa.
Yeah,
Um,
that's super cool.
Expanded my knowledge, and so that was kind of fun. It was an amazing hotel, an amazing experience. And then
Mhm.
from there, we flew to Italy, which had always been a dream of mine. And Italy, we started in Florence, and that's where primarily Gonzaga has a campus. It's our sister campus. And we've got, at Gonzaga, they've got this program that is a semester in Florence, or even a year in
Mhm.
Florence, which is amazing. And I've got a ton of friends that did it. I'm in remiss a little bit that I didn't do it, but I really just couldn't fit it into my schedule.
Yeah.
So it was fun to see that campus and experience what they experienced for the short time that we did. Met some of the same professors, and the experiences of the Renaissance town. Just an amazing town to be in.
That's for sure.
The cool thing was this program itself was all about business in Europe. So while we were in Belgium and while we were in Italy, we would travel around to different businesses and experience how they operate, which can be similar and different than the United States. We visited wineries, chocolate factories. We actually really, my favorite one was in the basement of this really old house. It had to have been from the 1800s, late 1800s. Wow. It was stone. And it was a place that made different pieces of silver. And whether it would be a silver ornament for a tree, which I bought a couple, I gave them to my stepmom who loves ornaments, and we have a couple on our tree every year. And he made just different dinnerware. If you've ever had a nice dinner set or set the table, and with the paper, the napkins,
the little,
and then the little ring that goes around it. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
He made those with different designs on them. Just a fascinating guy, but we got to watch him make these products and actually see the fabrication of them, and the manufacturing of them, and then watch how it went from there, then upstairs to a shop, and then his shop then sold them, and just kind of the whole process. I think we spent like 5 hours with the guy. Oh, wow. Really amazing. And then we spent time, like I mentioned before, at wineries. That was a big one. We went to, it's Bugatti. Is that the car?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we went to that in Italy.
How was that?
That was fascinating. I mean, really cool. So they've got these product lines, and in the building itself, you have to follow the arrows on the ground. So if you're walking, you can't go outside of this certain area, and some things are covered, some things you can't look at. We're not supposed to share any information of anything we've seen in the manufacturing process of this.
Really?
But it's super cool factory, and they're working on a lot of awesome features. And it was really interesting to see how they operate. Perhaps the most interesting experience of the whole thing was in Belgium, at the European Parliament and European Commission, both located in Belgium. And we got to participate in this European Commission kind of a role play, or maybe it was the Parliament. Well, either way, it was a role play type of thing that was a great experience to understand how Europe operates within their own system, their European Union. And that was probably perhaps the most interesting piece of the whole trip, just because that in itself has such a strong effect on the world. Their decisions there, are talked about and realistic, and that was an interesting piece too. But Europe itself was fun. Just the program was a really good one. And then I stayed at the end to experience more parts of Italy. So we went to Rome, which is an amazing place. And then we went up to we took a train to Innsbruck, Austria, and a beautiful place. Just an absolutely beautiful place. Very serene, very quiet, pretty relaxing town. And then we went up to Prague and flew home from Prague, which my family is Czech, and so it was even more awesome.
Kind of cool to see the heritage.
See the heritage, exactly. So my great grandfather, his name was Vaclav Frula, and
that's a name for you.
He was born just outside of Prague, and immigrated in the late 1880s, I want to say. And then he moved to the United States and ended up in the Chicago area, where he went to college, and then moved over to Seattle, where he ended up being a principal. I'm really sad that he died so young, because it would have been fascinating. Well, I probably never would have met him, but it would have been fascinating to have met him.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, totally cool to see where he came from. And kind of, this is the town. Obviously, it's very different now than it was then. But the river running down the center of the city and the castle on the hill were present at the time. And it's just so interesting. So
yeah, that's one of my favorite parts of traveling is like getting to step back in time a little bit because, the older generations aren't here anymore. But obviously, a lot of the things that they built and left are here. And so traveling, you get to go experience some of those things. And it's especially cool when you get to go see like where your family came from.
Yeah, the heritage is so interesting. I mean, just being able to kind of figure out, wow, this is my ancestors walked these streets. Like in some way, it's really interesting. I also have to say, I think a big part of traveling for me is culture. And I would think you would agree.
Yeah, definitely.
If you're born and raised in the United States, and honestly, I mean, I'm born and raised in Yakima. My parents were born here and raised here. My grandparents were born here and raised here. Like generationally, this is where I'm from. And so you kind of are born into this realm of that particular culture. Yakima has its own culture. And so, going off to school in Gonzaga, totally different vibe, totally different experience, culture, you're growing. And then I think that when you do travel abroad, it totally opens the door and opens your mind to this unique world that we live in. Everybody, every culture is different. There's different norms that go along with it. Like one of the things is tipping. I always think about you go to a restaurant in the United States, you're kind of expected to tip. Even if it's bad service, you just you tip because it's the thing you do. But you go over to Europe, it, depending on where you're at, can be misconstrued as rude and awful, and they get mad at you. And so you have to be really careful with what you do and say and how you act. But you also learn so much about the human being and the world. And I would say that that's been the best part of traveling for me, is broadening my perspective.
Yeah. I think it really opens your eyes to seeing, okay, the way that I know that I've always known is not the only way to live life necessarily.
True. Yeah, absolutely.
That's, again, one of my favorite parts is getting to see that, okay, there are different ways that, people live and they're really happy with how they live. And I think we can take a lot away from experiencing these other cultures and bring it back and integrate it into our own culture, our own lives, and maybe have a more well-rounded, fulfilling life potentially. Yeah,
absolutely. I think that it's just so interesting. I mean, so I've only been to Europe, in terms of my international travel. My goal for international travel is to get to most all the continents. I'm not sure I'll ever get to Antarctica. That just looks and seems cold to me, and I'm not sure I'm interested in that. I kind of plan my travels around, okay, when is it summer in South America or the Southern Hemisphere, and when is it summer in the Northern Hemisphere? But I would say that I have a lot of ambition to travel to Africa. I think one of my bucket list, so to speak, items would be an African safari. Another place that people, my family specifically, call me crazy. I would love nothing more than to go to Egypt. I think Egypt is so fascinating. Not that I want to spend much time there. I'm content with doing a 24-hour trip there. But I feel like that culture in itself, the history and the historical artifacts that you find there are one of a kind.
Yeah.
Isn't it one of the natural wonders of the world? Is not natural wonders of the world. The seven,
one of the wonders of the world.
Wonders of the world. Anyway, it's the pyramids.
The pyramids,
and that would be fascinating to see, I think.
Yeah.
And so, I'm always open to different places, but just I think it's so important for people to experience that for personal growth.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I think one of the worst things that someone can do is not get out of their own culture, their own circle.
Absolutely.
And see a different way of life or different point of view or perspective.
Absolutely. I think that's the only way you can grow. You have to be uncomfortable for one.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that traveling by yourself internationally can be uncomfortable. The Uber ride when I arrived in Brussels, first of all, somebody told me that when you arrive at that airport, there are fake taxis and there's real taxis. So
I think there's a lot of that in Europe.
And there's a lot of it. Yeah, that's true. And I'm just going, okay, don't get in the fake taxi. I just want to make it to my destination alive. The other piece is don't leave your bags. Like they can drive off with your bag in the trunk. So you got to be, I guess you're always aware of what you have to be aware of what's going on around you.
Yeah.
And using smart decision making. But that uncomfortable feeling is also allowing you to grow and experience something that is fascinating. I mean, America has its own amazing pieces. I've traveled a bunch around the country as well. I've experienced East Coast, Central United States, West Coast, Alaska, but it's different when you get out of the country. I feel like international travel just makes it that one layer deeper, just a little bit more maybe off-putting or nervous, but it's still so worth it in the end.
Yeah, I think for me it's just kind of, it's fascinating, and it's also really fulfilling, and it really helps me grow as a person to all of a sudden be in this place where nobody speaks the same language as me.
Right.
And I have to figure it out. You got to problem solve. You got to be really in the moment and kind of think through things differently than you might in your normal daily life.
It's very true. It's an odd feeling to be in a room and have nobody around you speaking your primary language, my English for me. And that is such a weird feeling.
Yeah.
Now, granted, when you go to Europe, a lot of people, especially younger people, do speak English as a second language. But it's still a language barrier that can make it rather challenging and make it very different. Because I mean, in our everyday life, everyone pretty much speaks English, right?
Yeah.
So the communication is not all that difficult. But over there, it definitely changes. I'm speaking there, but you can apply that to anywhere in the world too. You can apply that to going to Asia, which is on my bucket list, and you can apply that to even South American countries where they speak different languages, Spanish and a bunch of other languages, and so it's just interesting for sure. Yeah,
and I think it applies back here at home too, where you see, I went to a school that was mostly Hispanic,
right,
and now having traveled abroad and being in that situation where I don't know what anyone's saying, and I'm a foreigner there, I feel for these people that have come here from Mexico or other countries, and they're just kind of expected to keep up with everyone when they don't understand the language or they're not part of this culture. And so it's definitely like that's made me a lot more understanding and patient with people.
I definitely get it. In my business itself, it's I am more understanding and open-minded to that fact as well. I mean, people immigrate here, visit the United States all the time, and we're in Yakima, Washington, which is not a hub city in America. If you go to New York or LA or even Seattle or Atlanta or something that is more of a hub, Washington DC, you're going to get a little more of the culture, so to speak, the more people that don't speak English. But even directly related to Yakima, we have a ton of immigrants that have come here, and that's great. And some of them cannot speak English, and that adds a whole nother level of difficultness to their everyday life. Considering that a lot of Americans are not bilingual; they speak one language, and it opens the door to a lot of thoughts that I have too about learning another language as a young person.
Do you think that we should learn another language starting like in first grade or something like that?
They do say that the younger you are, the more of a sponge you have in terms of a brain, and so you can pick up on language easier. And maybe it is a good idea to have multi bilingual or trilingual people in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, what can it hurt?
Yeah.
I don't think it can hurt anything.
I mean, I just see, I mean, basically, most of the major countries around the world do that.
Right.
You
A
have
lot
to
of them
learn
have English
English.
as a second language.
You have to learn English starting
Mm-hmm.
from a young age, which I think when we think about like global business, that makes them far more competitive than
Absolutely.
us.
Absolutely. I think that in itself is a key argument as to why maybe we do need to have a second
Mhm.
language. I mean, I can't tell you what that second language should be. Maybe it's Spanish, maybe it's German, maybe it's, I don't know.
Mhm.
But I can tell you that it does set someone apart. I
Yeah.
wish I could speak Spanish.
Same.
I wish I could speak wish I could speak German. I wish I could speak something else or another language that would then set me apart from the other person.
Mhm.
That's good for getting a job. It's good for travel. It's good for
Yeah.
a lot of things in life. And yeah, maybe your everyday life in your business world or whatever you do, you're not going to use it.
Mhm.
But in the grand scheme of things, it really is a characteristic and a skill and a piece of you that sets you apart from another.
Yeah, you just have this other tool that can be really helpful
Yeah.
in some cases.
Absolutely. And it's a great resume piece too.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm all business. It's
It's
a
good
great
for
resume piece.
in the American business world.
That's true capitalists.
Yeah.
Here. But that's a fact.
Yeah. What were you were talking about your the global business or the business in Europe and the US. What were some of the differences you saw during that program?
Well, their work schedule is one. The
You mean
way
they don't work 80 hours a week?
yeah. Well, and they work odd hours. I'll say I guess this is probably the largest or the biggest difference that I noticed. The fact that they go into work at like 8 o'clock, like normal America, and they have a siesta in the afternoon. They shut down their shops. You can't really do much. You can get a restaurant maybe, hit or miss, but a lot of places close down. They go home, take a nap, do whatever they do, go to the gym. I don't know, and then they open up again at like 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and they're open until like 8. And that's why I learned that's why a lot of families, I went to dinner at Zaza, which is one of my favorite restaurants in Florence. It is my favorite restaurant in Florence, Italy. And I can't wait to go back to it. It makes my mouth water just thinking about it.
Why was it your favorite?
It had the best food, best environment, best everything that I felt while I was there. It was just the environment. They had live music. You could sit outside. You could sit inside. The wine selection was amazing. It was obviously everything comes back to me drinking wine.
Yeah,
makes me sound like an alcoholic.
Well, you gotta do that in Florence.
You gotta do that in anywhere in Italy.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was pretty amazing at dinner. We saw people, families of 4, families of 6. Sitting down for dinner at like 8 or 8:30 at night, and I'm going, that's a little interesting. They've got little kids, in the United States. I'm thinking back to my experience, obviously. I'm thinking back. I feel like when I was that age, my parents were putting me to bed at like 8:30.
Yeah, same.
Because you technically should be getting this really good sleep for that age. And then I started thinking about it after I was talking with friends, and we talked to one of our professors there. And she explained that that's normal because the business day doesn't end until like 7 or 8. And so they have to go to dinner. They have to do a dinner, and it's usually a late dinner, and then they go to bed around midnight or something like that. It just totally throws off the whole schedule by changing it, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
They do a lot of their business in the afternoon, that personal business that needs to get done, whether it's a nap or a siesta, or I guess same thing, or whether that's going to the bank or finishing up some shopping that they need to get done, whatever it may be. But it's pretty interesting. I don't know. That's the biggest difference I noticed between the United States and there. Is probably the work schedule.
Yeah. Would you say that's better or worse than what we do here?
I think just different.
Different.
You know?
Yeah.
I think that it could work for certain people, and it might not for others. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it could ever be adapted. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're just so different when it comes to it. Not that it's wrong either. I totally see the positives of it and the perks of doing so and why they do it.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Just a different culture.
Right. Again, different culture, different country. You experience something totally new. And it's fun to apply your experience to that experience to compare and contrast the two.
So you said you were alone going over there, but you had other people that were part of the program that you were with. So you weren't alone the whole time.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Well, there was I can't remember how many people were in the program, but it was a small group of people. One of my buddies from Gonzaga was a part of the program too. He and I were in the business school together, both same age, and he left a day earlier than I did to fly over there. So I was kind of coming in the caboose. So I was like the last person to show up, and so I had to fly over there alone, which was fun. I mean, it was fine.
Yeah.
Get to the hotel, and I was flabbergasted by the hotel. I was like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. This is going to be so much fun. And then we get there, and the first night was a big dinner. We had a dinner as a group, kind of meeting everybody, and then it was just fun. Explore.
Yeah.
You know, my favorite. We went to the next night. We got to explore whatever we wanted to do for that evening. I think we were done at like 3:30. The rest of the day was kind of ours to do on our own.
Yeah.
And so we found, you know, we found this restaurant, Le Bugatti. It was oddly enough, it was an Italian restaurant in Brussels, but it was really good. And the owner was a really sweet lady. She could speak broken English, so that was very fun to kind of converse with her. She would ask, "Where are you from?" And she didn't really see a lot of Americans in Brussels at this point in time, and I'm not sure why. I never asked her. I should have asked her. But we went there twice for dinner while I was there because it was so good and so fun, and she was so interesting. And then we hit this this pub. And now I'm blanking on the name of the pub, but
must have been a good one.
It was a real good one. And I remember, I can picture the bartender. His name was Matt with one T, like a doormat. And I mistakenly asked him if he was from Ireland, and because it was an Irish pub, and he said, "No, I'm from Scotland," and gave me kind of this dirty look.
Yeah.
But he brought us these shots that were lit on fire. And let me tell you, I got a video somewhere. Pretty amazing. It was so fun. We enjoyed that pub. We went there 3 times maybe. It was right down the street from our hotel, so it was very convenient.
Yeah,
Just walk right down the street. But anyway, it was so much fun. These experiences are amazing. Things you always remember.
Yeah, for sure. What was maybe the 2 or 3 like ones that stand out to you the most?
I'll say that the scariest experience that I had was in Brussels at night. It was halfway through our week and a half in Brussels, 2 weeks in Brussels. And it's probably like 10 or 11 at night. We were walking back to our hotel. It was dark. We got lost. And we turned down a dark road. I was in a group of, there might have been 6 or 8 of us in the group. So we weren't alone, but there were a bunch of, there were like four girls and 4 guys or something like that. And this black or dark brown BMW pulls up next to us. We're walking on the sidewalk and they're on the street, and goes at the same speed that we're walking. And that's a little nerve-wracking when you're alone, American.
Yeah.
You've got 4 women. And
when you start thinking,
and I don't mean that in a sexist way either. I mean that just in a realistic, like, that crosses your mind because I'm nervous that they are targeting us for some reason. And so then this white van at the end of the intersection, we're about halfway down the block, stops. And so obviously made us nervous. We were able to pop into a hotel. There was a double door entrance. We just popped in there and hung out for a half hour, and they were gone when we left. And so that was probably the most nerve wracking. We didn't know what to expect. They could have just been a total fluke, for all I know, but still a nerve wracking experience in the fact that you don't know if they're there to target us as a group of 8 or a couple of us, weaklings, so to speak. Maybe me, maybe anybody else in the group. It doesn't matter. It still makes you kind of nervous. I don't want to get kidnapped in a foreign country. So that was probably the scariest experience. Another standout experience had to have been Venice. We did Venice for a day, and I'm still fascinated on how the city is designed. Still to this day, I can't imagine it. I mean, it's slowly going underwater. Yeah. With sea levels rising, and the boats take you everywhere, or gondolas.
Can you even get a car around in there?
You can't. It's impossible. There are no roads. There are waterways, and you can get the train there, and you get off the train, and then the train crosses the bridge and back over to the mainland. But it's really an amazingly interesting city for that fact in itself. Yeah. It is not handicap accessible for anyone. It is pretty beautiful. It was a very sunny day when we were there. We were only there for a day trip, and it's about I think it was an hour and a half train ride from Florence. So we just took the train in the morning and then took it back at night. But truly a remarkable city. One of the best experiences was taking the gondola ride, where they take you around in the boat. That's a bucket list item for me. And it is so beautiful and so amazing. They kind of tell you a little bit of a history and the cool parts of this, and the pictures that you can take are amazing. Again, I have a few of those. Yeah. And Paris would probably be my last one, and Paris, I need to go back to Paris to experience it again. I didn't have a great experience in Paris. Again, a day trip from Brussels, not very far on the train. Yeah. And if you know anything, you do, but if you haven't been to Europe, go and you'll understand that the train takes you everywhere. Yeah, and everywhere. Quickly. I mean, it's so convenient to get on a train. Yeah. Because everything is so interconnected over there.
They definitely have a good train system throughout Europe. Oh, at least Western Europe.
Absolutely, and it's relatively inexpensive.
Yeah, for sure.
So we went to Paris, and I went with a couple of friends of mine, and the Parisians for whatever reason, don't love Americans.
Yep, I've heard that multiple
Not
times.
all the French, but the Parisians. And I'm not entirely sure why that is, because I feel like if it wasn't for Americans, they'd probably be speaking German. Don't quote me on that, but
we'll edit that out.
Yeah, you don't have to edit any of that out. But they just were, and it didn't matter what we did. Now it was a beautiful city. Would love to have spent more time and actually going inside the Louvre and inside a couple of other places, but
we were a whole day in the Louvre.
Oh, you could spend a whole day in the Louvre. You could spend a whole day. You actually can't spend a whole day at Versailles, which is just outside. We spent half a day at Versailles and got less than a quarter way through it.
Yeah, that's a beautiful place too.
Versailles is amazing. It's huge. It's bigger than anything you would ever conceptually understand in your brain right now. It's so big, and just so gorgeous. I mean, talk about Louis XIV and all of the history of the different kings and foreign. I mean, France has been around for forever, and it feels like, and all the leadership that since King Louis, whichever one it was, I think it was the 14th that built it.
There's a lot of them.
It's pretty amazing. It's all I'll say. And the gardens. You could spend an entire day just outside in the gardens. And I think it's about 12 or 15 miles outside of
it's
Paris.
Not too far.
It's a quick train ride, and they've got it set up in Paris to where you could take you right to Versailles, get off the train, and you go walk to the gates. So that was fun. But Paris itself, the Parisians can be pretty rude, and not particularly helpful or nice when they are being helpful.
Yeah.
So you just have to remember that and keep that in mind. One of the things I wish I would have done that I will do next time is hire someone to drive you around for half a day, and a local, so whether it be a taxi or get an Uber for half a day or whatever, and have them drive you around and give you the private tour. Tell me where the locals go. Get more of a in-depth cultural experience. Everybody can do all of the touristy things. You can do that all the time. You can do that every day of the week. Any city, even in America, you can do that stuff. But why not go where the locals go? Why not find out where the cool Irish pub is, or this awesome divine champagne bar in Paris, because it's from Champagne, France, right there. Why not find a place that they go to have a little happy hour or something? And so I think that's what I would do next time if I'm doing something different.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That's I've done that a couple times. One time that sticks out to me is when I was in Malaysia.
Oh, okay.
One, it was a safe way to get around. I felt really comfortable. But it was awesome just to have a local person just basically show me around and show me the sights and tell me all the history. And it was a great way to see the city. Got around really easily. Didn't have to worry about taking a whole group along and that sort of thing.
Right.
No, I think that's a great idea. And like you said, you get to know some of the more local spots, not just the...
You never know, you might actually build a relationship with the driver of that car. Yeah. And then you have an international friend. Someone that you can call or message or something when you get back. In fact, I just thought of this when that statement. In Italy, I absolutely adored this one family. They are amazing people. We're friends on Facebook, which is so fun to watch them post things. And we met, they were, Stefano is his name, was a study abroad or foreign exchange student with my buddy and his family for a half a year or a year. And so while we were there, after our trip had ended with the school, when we stayed to explore more, we decided to go up to Bologna, Italy. Beautiful town, by the way. So much history. The university is there. There's so much to do. And his family lived just outside the city, and they let us stay with them for a couple days. And so we actually moved into their house, and they made this wonderful dinner with different Chianti and different red wines and 5-course dinner with a fantastic dessert. And they made us these different things that we could take home. And the thing that I got was an Italian flag that they wrote on, and they signed them. And I have it. I think it's in my closet somewhere, but I have it somewhere. I'll never forget it. They're the most amazing family I've ever met. And they're going to forever be people that if I go back over to Bologna, I'm going to connect with. Yeah. But it's like that. You can make different connections. I wouldn't have met him without my buddy from the United States. But now that I have a relationship, it's even better.
It's so fun to have friends all over the world.
It is. It really is.
I'm sure you got a completely different experience than from when you were touring around.
Absolutely. Yeah, they took us on a full tour of Bologna that was their authentic tour. He showed us where he went to school and where his classrooms were and the churches that, the church that he went to, Catholic. And we actually went to a mass, which was amazing. On top of the hill, there's covered steps in Bologna, and there's a million of them. I mean, there's so many stairs, and it's exhausting. Let me tell you, I was in the prime shape of my life by the time I was done walking up these stairs. But at the top of the hill, after you go up all of these stairs from the city, you get to a cathedral. And we went to a mass there, and it was an amazing cathedral. And I'm Catholic, so I'm already fascinated a little bit by how the Catholic masses are different around the world, because they are. They're different than what you get here. The music might be different. The the entire experience might be different. And the Catholic mass that we went to there was only 22 minutes long, I think,
Really?
or 23 minutes long. It was very short. It was pretty much a couple Bible readings and then the Eucharist, and that was it. So that was also fascinating too. You know, it was just a different experience all around. But it was private. It was it was a private tour. It was a private experience from Stefano and his family, and they gave us a wonderful time there and a great opportunity meeting them. They also, his grandma could not speak English. She could speak Italian fluently. So that was an interesting conversation, because she was just as fascinated with us being in the house and wanting to talk to us that we had to have a translator communicate back and forth. One of the very first times I've ever had to do that in my life, where I was the one that she couldn't understand me, and she was fascinated and wanted to know what we as Americans, you know, what we like, what we don't like, what's our favorite food? Where are we from? What's it look like there? I remember she asked me, you know, about, she'd heard about the mountains. So of course we're talking about mountains and how serene and pretty it is, and that yes, there's vast mountain ranges, and so of course I'm like, well, have you ever come to the United States? No. And then she laughed and she's never, and obviously in Italian, and anyway, it's just a great experience. Totally something that is worth it. And if you can build a relationship with someone, like I said, doing the private tours, and you can create a pen pal from that. You can create an opportunity to get an in-depth and a cultural look at their life. Yeah,
you get the real Italy,
right,
so to speak.
Yeah, the authentic Italy.
Yeah,
it's not necessarily the tourist Italy that everyone experiences, but you're getting a little bit of what they're about.
Yeah,
their everyday life.
Yeah, I think that's a good tip for just travel in general. Don't go to the big tourist spot.
No, then you run into safety issues too, though. Too, you think about that. You pickpocketers in big areas. You got to be really careful with your wallet and your money, and I used a pouch when I was there the whole time. It was connected to my belt just to be on the safe side. I didn't want it to get, taken.
It's not good if your passport disappears
in another country. Gosh, no. Yeah, you don't want that to happen. Yeah. That would be awful. That would be absolutely awful. So, no, I don't know. It was a great experience. I love to travel. I plan to do more domestic traveling probably in the near future. I'm not sure when that'll be. Got a lot of places on my list.
Yeah, where's been some of your favorite places here in the U.S.?
Alaska is beautiful. In the summer.
Okay.
I'm going to clarify
Good
that.
to know.
In the summer. I am sure it's beautiful in the winter. I just have no desire to go.
I had a friend who was stuck up there last week. She's from there, and it was like -30 and like 6 feet of snow, and she couldn't get home back to Washington.
Yeah, no thanks. But I will say that I have in 2012-ish. That was the last time I was there, so it's been a long time. My aunt and uncle, my great aunt and uncle, used to live there, and their daughter Callie still lives there. And I do plan this summer to try and go up and visit Callie and her husband and my new baby cousin Remy.
Oh, nice.
I guess he's not new, and he's like 2 now, but still young. It is a beautiful, beautiful place. If you ever go up to Anchorage in the summer, there's a couple restaurants that I love. My mouth waters over them. One is the Double Muskie. It's outside of the city. I think it's towards Seward. Okay. And don't believe they take reservations. They're only open throughout certain months of the year when you can get in there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like 3 dinner slots, and you can go for like one of the 3. It's an amazing restaurant. I had the best pepper steak I've ever had in my entire life. I have the cookbook, and I still can't replicate it. I have tried so hard. So that is cool. I would say that the Moose's Tooth is a pizza restaurant. Great pizza, really, really good pizza. And then there's a couple.
Better than Italy?
No. Sorry, Mrs. Tooth, but no. But it is very good. I mean, you can get growlers of beer and pizza, and it's a fun experience too. So I don't know. I would say Anchorage is a lot of fun. Fairbanks, Alaska is really interesting too.
I've heard that's really pretty.
Fairly warm in the summer. Absolutely freezing cold in the winter. Right now, I'm sure there's tons of snow. I've got a friend from Gonzaga who is from Fairbanks, and we've talked about it before. But there's a place called North Pole, Alaska.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Santa is there all the time in his workshop, and the light poles are candy canes. It's a really cool town.
Yeah.
There's an opportunity to take the train from there to Anchorage, and you bypass Denali, which is Mount McKinley.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful mountain that you don't see very often because it's always covered in clouds. But when you can, it's really beautiful. So
is that's the highest one in the U.S., isn't it?
I want to say the highest one in the United States, yeah. And then maybe Mount Rainier behind it or something like that.
Mount Rainier's probably close. Yeah, I guess.
So Alaska, I would say, would be probably my most fascinating place. The same aunt and uncle moved to Houston.
That's a big difference.
Well, there's a lot of reasons for that, but I can tell you that they are pleased and happy to be in Houston, and I honestly enjoy visiting them there. They're not in Houston proper; they're in what's called the Woodlands.
Okay.
The Woodlands is this really cool planned community. And honestly, if I was to live anywhere in the United States besides Yakima, I'd consider living in the Woodlands.
Really?
The community itself is set up in different villages. So we've got the Woodlands, which is probably the population of Yakima itself. Maybe bigger. And within the Woodlands, there are different villages. And these villages are, one is Panther Creek, where my aunt and uncle live. One's Grogan's Mill. Another one is Cochran's Crossing, and then you've got, I don't know, there's a bunch of other ones.
Yeah.
And each village has its own town center, or its center area, where they've got a grocery store, some CVS, or a Walgreens, or a Rite Aid, or something like that. A restaurant, usually, sometimes a barber shop, or a beauty shop, some sort of maybe workout. And so there's this hub within each village, within the whole city or township is what it's called.
Interesting.
Of the Woodlands. The Woodlands is a township of the city of Spring, which is a suburb of Houston.
That's so many layers.
If that makes you understand how much this is broken down. But it is gorgeous. There's a couple skyscrapers in the Woodlands, tons to do, a huge mall, a lake called Lake Woodlands, and there's just some boats out there. They're all electric. There's no gas in these boats, but truly a really fun place with something to do all the time and pretty decent weather. They were affected a little bit by Hurricane Harvey. Some flooding took place, but nothing too bad. They did have snow that caused some pipes to burst.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
This last year, last winter. My aunt and uncle did not. Fortunately, they were fine, but some of their neighbors, who are actually very good friends of mine now, had some damage that they had to have fixed this year, which is par for the course. But really a cool place too. I'd say that's my second favorite place to live. I lived there briefly with them after college, and I loved it. It was an amazing experience, but I'd move back there if I wasn't here. I'd probably live there.
Yeah. Okay. Where are some places you haven't been that you want to go?
Charlotte, North Carolina is one of them.
That's a cool city.
I have heard amazing things about Charlotte. I've I follow a lot of people on Instagram, and there's a couple people that I follow that live in Charlotte, and it looks amazing. The nightlife, the people, the landscape, just the fact the way the city is set up. There's so much to do. I think it's one of the top 10 growing cities in the United States right now.
Yeah.
That and Boise, Idaho, of all places.
Yeah.
By the way, but Charlotte is certainly something that a place that I would like to visit and explore. Carolinas, I've never been to either one, and I would love to experience the Carolinas there.
Yeah.
I've heard they're just gorgeous states.
Yeah, so. I definitely can speak to South Carolina. South Carolina is awesome, especially Charleston. But no, when you're in Charlotte, when you get there, do the I don't know the actual name of it, but it's like the Funny Bus tour.
Oh, sure.
Do the R-rated version. They'll take you around to each kind of major site in the city, and you get to drink while you're on it.
Well, then I'm on board.
Some great jokes that are definitely R-rated, and it's a fun time. But it gives you kind of the highlights, and then I think going to explore afterwards is the way to go.
Yeah, that's a city that I would probably like to explore. Like I said before, with a local, with somebody in an Uber or a taxi that could show me around, or even some of I've messaged with back and forth with one of these guys that I follow on Instagram, and I told him I'm interested in coming, and hopefully maybe we can meet up. He could show me around, at least meet me somewhere and give me some tips on where to go. And it's like, yeah, heck yeah, let's do it. And so, it's a fascinating town. It's definitely a hub. I know it's a hub for American Airlines, which makes it a pretty busy city. It has to.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember it being a big airport.
Yeah, exactly. So that's probably one of the cities I'd want to go to. The other one that I'm really interested in, and I haven't been to, is Boston.
Oh,
and I'm a history kind of guy. I love history. I read a lot of historical books and historical content, and I'm really interested in pre-colonial and colonial days, in early United States, like 1700s United States, and Boston is such an important part of that in New England, and so I would love to experience that, and then maybe pop over to Cape Cod area, because it's right there. So that would be fun. But those are my two places. Yeah,
for sure. I was just in Boston early in 2021, and man, what a great city.
Sure.
Obviously, a ton of history there.
Right.
A lot of major events in the U.S. happen there. Definitely recommend. If you can spend like a week there, that's probably good.
Well, I thought about it. There's an event I want to go to. It's in June. I want to say it's like June 3rd or 4th or something like that. Over in Provincetown, Cape Cod. Okay. So I was thinking I can maybe do both.
Yeah.
So it'll be kind of fun.
Yeah.
I've never been there either, but I've seen pictures and looked at it. It looks absolutely gorgeous. So.
Yeah. No, it's a great part. I gotta get up to Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, that area.
In the fall. I've heard in the fall, it's the best time to be there is in the fall.
That's one of the next ones I gotta do here. But do you have any trips planned right now?
I have I've got a few trips in the works, but nothing planned and set in stone. Although that'll change in the next few weeks, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure the answer. Yes, there's some stuff coming up, but I'm not sure yet.
Yeah.
Some of it for business, some of it for pleasure.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's nice when you can do both at the same time.
Well, not every trip for business is a place I want to go to.
Yeah.
So, but no, I've got quite a few things, and I may go back down to Ketchum, Sun Valley, Idaho.
Okay.
I love it there. I just got back from there.
You're just telling me how great that plane ride was.
Oh, goodness. Well, don't fly in there whenever it's in a blizzard, so let's put it that way. But it's my happy place. I'm not going to lie to you. Everybody should have, a place that makes them happy and
Yeah.
feels good and relaxed. And Sun Valley, Idaho, just for whatever reason, Ketchum, Idaho, for
Yeah.
whatever reason, makes me feel that way. When I go there, it's usually sitting by a fire and looking out the window. And in the wintertime, at least, there's this place we stay at, and it's to the base of the ski mountain, Baldy, and it's just beautiful, covered in snow. You watch skiers ski down the hill and just hang out, and it's beautiful. I don't ski at all. I thought about the last time I was there last week, I was going to do a ski lesson, and it was a high of -2, so that was not going to happen.
Yeah, no.
But it was overall quite relaxing and just my happy place. And so, overall, I would probably go back there. So I know I'm going to go back there here pretty soon. And then I've got a couple driving trips here in Yakima. I'll be in Seattle next weekend. And then Spokane in a couple of weeks. But no big trips coming up, although you never know. If this snow continues here in Yakima the way it is, I might be going south to like Palm Springs or something like that for a long weekend because it's cold.
Yeah, every winter I'm like, why am I here right now? Scraping all this snow off, all this ice off my car.
It's exactly what I say all the time. I'm like, ugh, I do not like it. But it's just short term.
Yeah.
Not going to last forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think that's the beauty of travel too, is, you get to kind of take yourself out of your normal location, normal life, all that stuff. You get to just kind of throw that all away and experience something different for a little while.
That's a fact. I would agree with that. It's kind of nice to clear your headspace of your everyday normal.
Definitely.
I mean, in my line of work, I have the ability to work remotely, which has really helped with travel. And disconnecting, I don't have to completely disconnect, which is good. But it is great to change up that routine.
Yeah.
And that location and experience something that is not in your everyday life. Yeah. So I would say that's a fact for sure.
Yeah. Well, I know we're coming up on an hour here.
Funny how time can just fly by.
Yeah, that was a fun hour of listening to your stories there. One of my favorite parts of travel too is getting to hear other people's stories. It's fun to live vicariously through others, and
would agree completely with that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just amazing. And you might have those experiences where you're like, oh yeah, my buddy knows these people,
right?
And so then you're able to make a connection there and have an amazing experience.
That's the best part of it. Connecting with people, don't underestimate that, because connections with people all the time can open so many doors for you as a person, and whether you know it or not.
Yeah.
Just meeting the right person can set you up with that job or that experience or that opportunity that may not come. And so, for me, I'm an extremely social, extroverted person. Anybody that knows me knows that I can talk a lot, and I'm sorry. But it really is important.
Yeah.
And you're totally right that you can have those experiences. And I love to live vicariously through people too when they, I love to hear your stories every time you travel. It's amazing. It makes me decide on which places I want to go to and which places I don't want to go to. But realistically, traveling is just so good for the soul, I think. And also good for building character and experience and overall worldly understanding and open-mindedness.
Yeah.
It's a vast world out there. It's big.
Definitely is. Any last kind of tips or tricks for anyone listening? Advice?
Just be safe, but don't wait.
Yeah.
If you really want to do it, experience the world while you can.
Agreed.
My grandparents always told me that. They loved going to Europe. They were in Europe quite a few times. They absolutely loved Spain and they loved Switzerland. My grandma talks about it all the time, and they were so lucky that they did it when they did it. My grandpa ended up getting ALS and passing away, and you can't really travel to Europe or in long trips. So definitely travel while you can, experience while you can, and don't just say I'll do it next year.
Yeah. We'll pause this really quick, but I want to finish that thought up. Okay, we're back there. Yeah, so you're saying don't wait to travel until it's too late.
Don't wait to travel. It's important that you do it while you can. Now, I don't go into major debt doing it, but if you believe or want to do something, whether that be I want to go to LA and go to the beach, go to Hawaii, go to Mexico, South Africa, South America. What am I trying to say?
Yeah.
Brazil or Argentina or something like that. Want to go to Europe, whatever it might be. If that's your goal and want to travel, do it. Make it happen. You have the power to do it. But don't wait and don't say, oh, I'll do it next year or I'll do it next year, because you know what? Time goes by really fast.
Yeah.
And I can't believe it's already been a number of years since I've been in Europe and I haven't been back. And I did that. I said, oh, I'll do it next year or I'll plan for it this year. You know what?
Pandemic hits
and then you literally can't. So I just, if you want to do it, do it. Make a plan, get it done. You will not regret it. I can guarantee that. And it will open so many doors of things you didn't think of or even expect. You're going to see things that you can't see on television or when you look at pictures. It's just going to be amazing, and you have to go into it with an open mind, that this is going to be awesome, and I'm going to experience something new, and then you grow from it.
Yeah.
It can completely change your entire perspective. I mean, you look at how certain things might be. It can change your entire perspective on the world.
Yeah.
By going outside.
I can definitely attest to that.
It can also change your perspective on American policy and how, and to be honest with you, coming back home, I love coming back home. I did love coming back home from Europe. It was very different. I felt like I was on edge all the time. Because you don't know the laws, you don't know. You come to the United States and you pretty much know your freedoms and your ability. And not everywhere in the world is like that.
Yeah.
So it's an amazing experience, and my biggest thing is don't wait.
Yeah. No, that's one of my hopes and goals with this podcast, is to help inspire people to make that leap. If there's a place you want to go to, make it happen. However you can make it happen, because I've talked with so many people in my professional life and personal life who had these goals and they waited and things happened, life changed, and they're never going to get to do it.
That's true.
And I don't personally, that's how I live. I don't want to look back and regret that I didn't take that opportunity. I didn't take that chance, even though I might not have been, the most financially stable or something like that, or most, comfortable, but I made it happen. And, I would say pretty much most, if not all of my best memories are from traveling.
I would say that most, if not all, of mine are from traveling, whether it be local, domestic or foreign. It is great. I mean, it's truly a great experience to just see things and talk to people and witness amazing history. I mean, I guess in my mind, I get stuck with a lot of times you can get stuck in the rut of this is what life is all about, and it's very American. It's very Yakima. This is what it is, but yet the rest of the world operates so differently. And honestly, I haven't been to Asia, but I would say that that's a big one that I would like to do probably next internationally. And Asia itself is totally different world.
Totally different.
I mean, totally different world. It's different than Europe. It's different than the United States. It is truly fascinating, and I would love to experience that next because of how many things I can learn and take away from understanding their culture or getting at least a little niblet of their culture. Something that is just amazing. I mean, I've heard Thailand is phenomenal. I've heard Singapore is amazing, and China obviously is
awesome.
is pretty amazing as well in terms of the people. And it's the largest population in the world.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's some amazing aspects of that, especially if you go Western China, more towards like Tibet and Nepal and whatnot. That would be fascinating. So that would be probably my next big one if I were to go somewhere.
Okay. Yeah.
But I would just say do it. Do it while you can, and don't wait.
Yeah. 100% agree. And with that, I think that's a good place to wrap it up.
Sure. Thank you so much for letting me share some experiences and talk too much.
Yeah.
So.
Well, hey, thanks for taking the time to do this, and I loved hearing your experiences. And I hope we can do this again in a year or whenever it is.
After my next trip.
Yeah, you can share some more experiences. And
there you go.
We'll look forward to it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, perfect. Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye, everyone. Hey, everybody. Kyle here. If you enjoyed today's show and want more, you can always listen to other episodes on Spotify or Anchor. The links are in the description below. If you want to see travel pictures from today's guest and other guests, as well as my own travel photos, you can see them on Instagram. The page is called Our Travel Experiences Podcast. If you want to share your own travel pictures on the page and or share your travel experiences on the podcast, you can message me on that Instagram page or email me at ourtravelexperiences@outlook.com. I would love to hear about your travel experiences and see all the beautiful pictures that you've taken. Thanks again for listening, everyone, and I look forward to sharing the world with you again soon.